everyone, welcome to another Book Review Wednesday, and today I thought it would be interesting, instead of discussing one book specifically, to discuss basically a genre of books. And since we are in the month of love, I thought it would be interesting to address something that is a little bit more on the ridiculous side. And as you can see by the title, that is the romantic novel genre. Oh yes, there's a lot of interesting things that have come out of the romantic novel genre, in the sense that that there's just a lot of ridiculousness to it. But it's not to say all romance novels are bad, or that all romance stories or stories that do have romance in them are bad. Uh, it's just that there have been really emphasized within our culture, and I think those ones tend to be on a little bit more of the ridiculous side. But also there are other ones that are good and worth recommendation. It's just usually the ones that I find to be on the shelves and that are around the romance section are a little bit of they're just very out there, to say the least. But the interesting thing about the romantic novel genres is that we have recently sort of seen this kind of focus on romance that we haven't seen in the past when it comes to adaptations. For example, Nicholas Sparks, pretty much a whole library of his books have been adapted into film. Also, Twilight is another big one. That was a huge romantic novel success, saga. And we also have 50 Shades of Grey, which is the latest one that is going to be adapted. And it seems like these are the things that are getting adapted as far as romance is concerned, and as you can tell, they're probably fairly low quality. Already, by my opinion, by discussing two Nicholas Sparks books in the past, that being their adaptations, not necessarily the books, because I don't think I could go through one page reading Nicholas Sparks' books. But basically, these kinds of stories are the ones that are being focused on and the ones that are being celebrated, which I think is a little bit ridiculous, because there's, I think, definitely better source material out there and better books about romance that are out there as opposed to these ones. But these are the ones in particular that sort of sparked, I think, people's interests back to the romantic romance genre, because they were hugely successful adaptations, and we keep seeing Nicholas Sparks books being adapted, and we have seen Twilight be adapted and make a lot of money, and we've seen 50 Shades of Grey being pumped into the media constantly. So yeah, there has been this, I think, huge sensation and this sort of revival for romance in a way, that people are interested in the genre again. I don't know if that has to do with the fact that since our culture has changed over the years, maybe going back to those sort of like romantic roots is what people are searching for. But I don't think any of these books that have been pumped out as success stories are really all that worthy of that success, like I mentioned. Now, the interesting thing too about a lot of romance stories and a lot of romance books is that they have really crazy, ridiculous titles, and they also have very ridiculous covers along to go with them. And I thought it would be interesting for this video to address to you kind of what these titles are, because I can just go for hours just looking through the romance novel section and just laugh at how outlandishly bad the titles are. So I'm going to kind of list them off here and sort of give you an idea as to how creative these stories can be, which is, as you can probably tell, sarcasm within my voice. But uh, and I think this is also an issue for the romance books is that they're hard to take seriously because of the titles as well as their sort of subject matter. So we don't really feel like what we're getting is an actual romance in some cases. And I'll sort of explain that as I go through these titles here. How to Love an Extraterrestrial in 10 Days. Oh yeah, wow, you combined a title of a very, very lowbrow romantic comedy and you inserted it with an alien, so it sounds more provocative. Way to go, romance novel title. You sucked me in. I just thought that one was just so ridiculous in how it was trying to combine a film that is fairly standard and not even as good with aliens. Maybe because somebody heard Katy Perry's song Alien and thought, hey, how can I combine two outlandishly bland and untalented things together? How about instead of how to lose a guy in 10 days, it's how to love an extraterrestrial in 10 days. So yeah, I'm not kidding you, that's an actual title of the story. Now this next title that I'm going to address is a little bit more direct. It's almost just funny how direct it is and how sort of straightforward and to the point it is. It's almost like saying you're not going to get anything else about the story except what's in the title. And that's Pleasure Me. Oh yes, that is the title of the romance book that I saw. Okay, alrighty. So you're supposed to, so as an audience member, I'm supposed to please you? Is that it? Okay. But either way, it's just so, I just found how funny it was and how direct it was trying to be, but at the same time, it just sounds so ridiculous when you say it. It just doesn't sound like something that people would say to one another in real life. But that's all I think I can say about that title. But let's move on now with Barefoot and Pregnant. I don't know what barefoot has to do with being pregnant. I'm totally confused on that one. If somebody could explain the connection, that would be wonderful. But that was the title. So yeah, there's a lot of incoherent things I'd say in a lot of these titles, but this one's I think the first to come off as very incoherent. Whereas the other two titles are just kind of just trying to be sort of marketing labels by combining things together or just being outright direct and to the point. But the next one that I'm going to briefly tell you about is one that's actually a sequel. I'm not kidding you. They actually have a 2 in the title. The Firefighter's Woman 2. Okay, alright. What does that mean? Like, why would you need a sequel for something like this? This makes absolutely no sense. What would be the point of having a sequel of The Firefighter's Woman? Like, did she suddenly go away in the first book and then now she's back as the Firefighter's Woman? Like, what's the point of having a sequel for this? I mean, you gotta you gotta establish a little bit more like what you're trying to get across here, because man, it's confusing. So yeah, there's just that was the first and only sequel that I saw, and it just stood out to me as going, wow, this person's not even trying. This next one is hilarious in not just the title itself, but also kind of the imagery that goes with it. Um, and that is Recipe for Temptation. And there's a guy dressed up as a cook. I'm not kidding you. Not kidding you. I think he is, he's got the six-pack going or whatnot. But yeah, Recipe for Temptation. Yeah, that's what they were going with. They were trying to tie men with cooking. Maybe it's because women do a lot of the cooking usually, and maybe that attracts them because, ooh, he's cooking now. He's the recipe of temptation. Oh, okay. That I could kind of see that working in there, But on the one hand, I'm just laughing because it's just so ridiculous, especially with the fact that they just throw it out there within the title as well as with the image of the front cover. So yeah, it's wow. Just funny. Just so bad it's good. Um, the next one I'm gonna talk about is you're almost confused as to what it's supposed to really mean. But it is called The Bull Riders Christmas Baby. So does that mean okay, so a bull rider had a baby, I guess, on Christmas? Is that it? And why would we need to have that as a title of a book? Like, I mean, that would probably be the last thing you would want to stick onto the cover of the book. And the hilarious thing is they show like a pregnant woman, and then they show like the guy in the background with the cowboy hat and stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, okay, yeah, we can see that in the title. Maybe you could, give this title some ambiguity or some kind of but wow, you're just going full force on that. Great job, book. Great job. I just couldn't help but laugh when I saw that. I was just like, wow. Wow, that's ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. Um Now this next one I thought was almost creepy. Like it was approaching 50 Shades of Grey territory. Um and that was Captive Fantasy. And literally on the cover, I am not kidding you, is a dude in an orange suit with cuffs on him. So it sounds like this guy's been to jail. I don't know why a man being in jail is in any way, shape, or form romantic, but trust me, it's not. I mean, I almost want to say it's almost worse than 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, at least Christian Grey didn't go to jail. But at the same time, I mean, probably the stuff that he ends up doing could probably land him in jail at some point in whenever the uh, romantic lead slash woman of the story finally stands up for herself, which I don't think happens, but at the same time, wow, just wow. Captive Fantasy. Yes. Yes, I want to go to jail with that one dude that you show on the cover. And it was creepy. It was creepy. I did not understand what vision this author had, but man, was it bizarre. And it freaked me out to no end. But yeah, it was just very awkward. Um, but I think that's ultimately all I can say about that title. Um, Untamed Billionaire, Undressed Virgin. Speaking of 50 Shades of Grey, pretty much that's almost what 50 Shades of Grey should have been the title of, because Christian Grey is a billionaire, and supposedly the romantic lead, the woman, is a virgin. So yeah, and I don't think Christian Grey is someone that can be necessarily tamed. So Untamed probably describes him fairly well, and Undressed Version probably makes sense for the romantic lead, since that's probably what ends up happening to her in the book. So yeah, I like sort of the just throwing out there the billionaire title, because a lot of the romantic books do have the billionaire uh, portion in their title. And I think that's definitely a sort of brilliant marketing tactic, because it's like, ooh, ladies, look at this guy. He's a billionaire. He's got money. That means resources for you. Doesn't necessarily mean he loves you, but heck, he's gonna give you money. So yeah, I just thought that was just so ridiculous, and I was just going, wow, wow. I guess you just need to insert billionaire somewhere, um, and then women will go, whoo. Uh, I actually thought of my own title. How about the bare-chested millionaire? And there's just like, you don't even see the dude's face, you just see like the six-pack, you know? I mean, you might as well, if you're going to go that low brow, you might as well just go all the way. So yeah, I could understand why some of these titles could be offensive to people, but I just find them hilarious. I don't really care because I don't take them seriously. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting title because, like a lot of the titles, you got billionaire in it. Um, the boss bedroom agenda. Oh yeah, you thought it was going to say boardroom, huh, didn't you? But he has a bedroom agenda. Yeah, he has a list and a plan, and he's a leader. And I think that's something that I think draws the female crowd. Because even myself, I like it when men take leadership roles and do that thing. That's totally fine. I don't have any issues with that. Um, but just to display it in this way of, yeah, he has a clear established way in which he's going to go about um, having his bedroom business taken care of. Uh, that was just almost outright ridiculous to me. I just couldn't help but laugh at that. Like, wow, he's got a boardroom agenda because he's a boss, but he's got a bedroom agenda because he's a boss. Whoa! And then millions of screaming, hollering fangirls. Yes, please, let me be a part of your bedroom agenda. Oh my, I found that to be ridiculous. But I thought it was an interesting title because, again, it was kind of displaying that male quality of leadership, um, which was unique compared to a lot of the other titles that I've been mentioning. So, yeah, probably not in the best way to convey leadership, but at the same time, these romantic novel titles can't get any lower. Um, Next one that I want to discuss is Mistress Under Contract. Now, I almost want to say this sort of relates to 50 Shades of Grey because I believe part of the plot of the book is that the female lead is supposed to sign a contract where she will do the kinky stuff with Christian Grey, which I think is the stupidest and most idiotic thing you could do. Like, why would you do that? That is so dumb. And maybe there was some money attached to it. I don't know, but regardless, Mistress Under Contract. It's almost like the female demographic is saying, yes, put us under a contract. Put us under your will, have us be signed in there, we have a contract. There's something there that establishes us together, even though as loosely as probably possible, because that's usually how mistresses usually end up. So yeah, wow, Mistress Under Contract. That's like saying, I mean, I'm really the second person, I'm like the second person that has to have a contract with this man who's probably married, because again, mistress under contract probably makes the most sense. I mean, you might as well just go out and say prostitute under contract. I mean, I don't know how any sensible woman would sign a contract to be a mistress. Like, I just don't get that. So yeah, it's confusing and it's weird, but it stood out to me because I thought it was just like, wow, oh, okay, all right. Those things don't really make a huge amount of sense together, but okay, all right, whatever. You can't go any lower. um, the Blind and the Buttonless Horseman. The buttonless part was probably the funniest part. It's almost like it's teasing the audience, like, yes, he's buttonless. He doesn't have any buttons. You see that chest all the way through. Look at me. Pay attention to me. I am creative. Woo. You know? And I just wanted to look at that title and go, wow. Somebody had to think of that. Somebody had to publish that. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, wow. But I just thought it was interesting how it was sort of conveying the this. It was like literally going out and pretty much saying like, this guy's got a full six pack, or this guy is like buff or whatever. Like, it was pretty much going in that direction when you say buttonless horseman. So yeah, appealing to the female demographic in that way. Who says objectification doesn't go both ways, ladies? Hey, that's just how the world works. But again, all I think I can say about that title, it's just there to exist for the sake of appealing more to, I guess, the base urges of the demographic. Married One Night. I don't know why you would be married for one night. I don't know how that makes any sense unless you were forced to. Maybe that makes sense. But they have a happy couple in like the front cover, and I'm going, what? Why would you call it Married One Night? Like, so you married on one night? Married One Night. That doesn't make any sense, okay? That's just the most nonsensical title you could put in there. Married One Night. No, you have to say, married something else that's maybe significant to the story. You can't just say married one night. Okay, everybody marries at one night, maybe. Maybe they do have night weddings. I don't know. But still, like, why would this be a title? It makes no sense whatsoever. There's one night. What is that supposed to mean? That doesn't make any sense. Does that mean you got just you married one night? So you got married on this one night, on this one occasion, or were you only married for one night? Married One Night doesn't provide any understanding of what you're trying to convey when it comes to marriage, because the title doesn't make any sense. You have to insert something in there so that it makes sense. It would have to be married for one night, married on one night, married married within the night. I don't know. Like, you would have to put in something else than saying just married one night, because like it provides confusion to your audience. But again, I think the married portion is something that appeals to the demographic, because they're getting married, so appeals to women. So yeah, that's something that that I found to be interesting. And one of the titles that I thought was the most funny in how it didn't make any sense to me. um, Now the next one really appeals to Valentine's Day. Oh yeah, they went there with one of these stories. It's called Strawberries and Dessert. I'm not kidding you. Strawberries and dessert. Um, Usually those two things get involved together on Valentine's Day. Sometimes you have, the chocolate strawberries, and then you have desserts. That makes sense. But having that as a title of a romantic book, uh, it tells me that you're just trying to sell strawberries and desserts, or saying how strawberries and desserts somehow play a role in this story. But to be honest, I don't really see how strawberries and desserts sound all that interesting. I mean, wouldn't we want to know more about the couple that we're supposed to be focusing on? Why would we focus on these arbitrary things? And again, I think it's that whole trying to appeal to the demographic for the things that we associate that are sort of quasi romantic, like strawberries and dessert. So yeah, but at the same time, doesn't make grounds for a good start to a romance book. The other one that I wanted to briefly talk about is The Spaniard's Defiant Virgin. There's also something else too. Virgin is often used in a lot of these titles through romantic books. Um, I think the reason being is that women, I think, feel maybe stronger ties to virginity, because again, they are going for that demographic. They are going for women, uh, or for women who do enjoy that kind of thing. Uh, so I think the word virgin appeals because I think um, women, as part of that demographic that they're trying to appeal to, has sort of this strong tie to virginity. That they hold it as something kind of sacred to them. And once it's sort of broken, you can't go back. So I think, again, there's just something about virginity that I think that demographic finds appealing, because it's been used throughout tons of these works, similar to how billionaire is used to identify the male. Like he's got lots of money. Ding! I'm a virgin. Ding! So I don't know what that is. You could argue the sexual politics and whatnot on a different video, because that's not what we're talking about. But what I'm saying is that there is some tie to this word virgin. Women seem to associate with that word, at least the women that are attracted to these kinds of stories. So there's something to that, I think. Another one that I think was a lot of fun. Surrender to the Night. It sounds like one of those cheesy romance songs titles, as opposed to a romance book. um, but I think this one, again, it's sort of it's a little bit more direct, similar to the title that I talked about, Pleasure Me. Surrender to the Night sort of the same thing, in that it's saying, surrender to me, let me take you away into bliss, so to speak. So I think it's a little bit more direct. Not as direct as Pleasure Me, trust me, that's pretty direct. But this one kind of ties in a little bit of subtleness, but at the same time, there is this sort of directness of, surrender to the night, surrender to me, you can't resist macho, insert six-pack man here. So yeah, that one I thought was funny. Master of Desire. Oh yeah, that's a title. That's a title. I guess there is this, I think, appeal for the romantic books, at least the ones that I'm talking about here, to have a leader. Again, similar to the boss bedroom agenda, but different in the sense that this guy sounds like somebody that's it sounds like, from what I could tell by looking at the title, it's probably from a different era. Um, but Master of Desire, I think, attracts um, that female women romance novel demographic, that or the people that like those books, because they like the idea of somebody being a master, somebody being in control, somebody being sort of the leader, but at the same time, not and it's not control, as I think, as a bad thing. So I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's designed just to be a means of the ways into which the genders sort of play off one another. The male is usually the one who is um, the master, the leader, the person who sort of takes control and establishes things with the female, and it's not to control her as a person, more as it's just to control kind of the situation that their relationship is placed in. Like, and I mean, this is even in the simplest things. Like, for example, uh, who usually decides where to go on a date? Usually, usually men oftentimes plan dates out for the women, and then the man takes the woman out on the date, and usually the man pays. That's not to say the man has to pay, but that's usually the traditional way in which romance is conducted. And that's really what a lot of people gravitate towards when they hear such a title, Master of Desire. He is the one thing that takes me on this wonderful journey, because he is in control and he's going to provide me with an awesome experience. That's kind of what it's designed to be. It's not a bad thing when a man takes a certain amount of control within a relationship. Again, it's not about controlling the person, it's more about establishing plans, establishing goals, just providing leadership and guidance. Um, it's not so much it's not about controlling the person. Controlling the person is wrong. Um, but the Master of Desire is supposed to be kind of the leader, um, the one who dominates certain things, but doesn't do it to control the other person, rather to help guide the other person, and ultimately, they'll end up making a decision or deciding what ultimately to do. Usually sometimes things can be done mutually between the genders, but at the same time, I feel like that there are some, there is, I think, um, you have to have a boss, and you have to have someone who um, takes that leadership with a trust and an understanding, as far as usually how these relationship dynamics work. So yeah, I think that's really all I can say about that, but that's something that I think appeals to that demographic, like shwoo, like it's like a bell that rings in the mind. Um, the next one I want to talk about was probably the most hilarious one I've seen. The most hilarious one. Smooth Pits. Oh yeah. And literally they show a dude just like this, laying out and just going, yeah, I got my muscles, and yeah, I got my smooth pits. I was laughing so hard when I saw that. I was just laughing so hard. I could. It was just. Okay. Okay, you want to go for something a little bit way more literal, sort of like Pleasure Me, but at the same time, you're not um uh, insinuating an act. You're insinuating like who you are. Like, yeah, I have smooth pits. Zoom. I don't really know why smooth pits would suddenly appeal to females who read these books, but I'm assuming that the female demographic for these stories likes men who shave, maybe, and like smoothness, and so yeah, smooth pits can't go wrong. Now, the next one that I wanted to talk about is also, and it's the second to last one, uh, is one that I find to be kind of funny because it sort of repeats itself. But I think at the same time it's trying to insinuate other things maybe too, so that's why it sounds a little strange. But Dark Desires After Dusk. Now, I think the dark they're insinuating there is like bad, like, ooh, this guy's a bad boy. Ooh, woo. But again, it feels sort of repetitive when the title continues with After Dusk. Like, okay, so you're saying that these desires will be dark because they'll be after dusk. I guess so. I think Desires After Dusk would probably be a little bit more, people would still get it. They would understand what you're trying to kind of emphasize, but again, and this is something that I think has been growing, is this sort of appeal for the bad boy, where we see the shrew again. So I kind of get what the title is sort of trying to get at or give the impression of, like, this guy's a bad boy. Yeah, he's so cool and blah blah blah, and he's dangerous. So yeah, you can argue whether or not this is a good or a bad thing. I usually think that it ends up being really a bad thing, but at the end of the day, it's just now the last one I want to talk about is, oh man, this one is like something that makes me laugh. It's just ridiculous because I have no idea really what this is supposed to mean. But it is literally called Kangaroo Gang Bang. I am not kidding you. That is what this book title is called. Kangaroo Gang Bang. Now, I don't want to come out and say what this title is supposed to mean because it could probably mean a lot of things. I'm assuming that it takes place in Australia because that's where kangaroos are. That's just my thought. But yeah, man, kangaroo gangbang. What is that even supposed to tell the audience? And I mean, all they do is they don't even show kangaroos in the title, thank God, but they do show the female and the male together. But I just get so confused because I'm like, wait, what does this have to do with kangaroos? And what does this have to do with gangbangs? Makes no sense. What is the point? Please tell me, story. What is the point of making this a title of your book? And those are all of the titles that I wanted to address because I thought it would be interesting to discuss the sort of bad surrounding the romance or the romance genre, so to speak, novels or books, however you want to call them. Uh, but man, there's just a lot that just every time I go to the section, the romantic section, there's always titles and stories like this. It's almost to the point where a monkey could probably read them and understand and comprehend fully what these stories are saying. Um, because I just think there's no cleverness to them. There's nothing interesting about them. But I just find how hilariously awful these titles are. Man, do these titles crack me up. I could just go and just look at the titles and just start laughing and just going through all of them and just being like, ha ha ha, I'm having so much fun, even though they're so bad. But yeah, I think if you don't take this genre so seriously, you will find some kind of guilty pleasure, fun enjoyment out of it. Again, if you don't take it seriously. But usually the romantic books that, you do end up taking seriously, usually they're not even really necessarily within the romantic section. Like, it's almost like there's another section dedicated to them. Like, they'll either be put in classics, or they'll be put in uh, fantasy, or they'll be put in some other category. So yeah, it's really hard to say why this genre is the way it is, but that's just kind of how it kind of sort of represents it sort of shows you what that demographic likes. Otherwise, they wouldn't make these stories anymore. If heck, they could turn a profit out of them, they'll make them. They'll make them. So yeah, I think that's really all I can ultimately say about these books. Um, they're interesting in their own special way. They're again, if you don't take them seriously, if you just take them for complete face value, you can laugh at them. However, if you take this genre a little too seriously, I think you're going to be finding yourself disappointed. So yeah, I don't know what this really says about um, you know, certain ways in which, the genders see each other in one way or another. But I'm just talking in respect to the books and to the titles that I've seen here, and what those titles I think indicate. And I'm sure there's people that have various opinions on this subject matter and would love to share their favorite titles of these romantic books. I'm sure there's ones out there that are probably just as funny or even more funny than the ones that I managed to find. Um, but those definitely did stand out to me as the most outlandish, the most crazy and ridiculous. Um, but yeah, I think that's really all I can say about the romantic genre. It's just one of those things where it appeals more to fantasy than on to providing an actual substance of story. So I think that's why you get these very over the top, outlandish, titles, and then you get this very over the top and cheesy and bad story out of it. They're sort of like soap operas, but in book form. So, yeah, I think that's though really all I can say about this topic. But I'd be more than happy to hear what anybody else has to say in regards to um, this topic. Feel free to comment and do whatever you feel you'd like to do. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. I thought it would be interesting as this for this book review Wednesday, since we are approaching Valentine's Day, to address something that's a little bit more ridiculous, a little bit more different than what I usually do for my book reviews. And I thought it would be interesting to kind of go through titles, because I think titles are very important in setting an audience's complete interest. I think titles really do make a difference. So uh, that's why I wanted to go over why these titles really didn't work, but are funny nonetheless. But yeah, I think that's all I can say. Hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and goodbye.